Welcome, welcome to our listeners. And I am truly fortunate to have a wonderful personality, which I usually value and respect our teachers, teachers in our society, because I know how hard and how difficult they've been going through in terms of teaching our children. They are our second, as what I've mentioned to her a while ago. They are our second they are the second parents of our children. So our guest speaker is a high school Spanish teacher in Central Virginia with several years of experience working alongside students and teachers to maximize learning gains and academic outcomes. She predominantly works on students to help them improve their writing, reading, communication, and comprehension skills. With over 12 years of experience in English as a two master's degree, one in secondary education and the other in Spanish, she has decided her career to fostering a love of reading and writing in her students. She specializes in teaching in a way that enhances communication skills, critical thinking, and academic and creative writing. I love that. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our guest speaker, Knikki Hernandez. Welcome, Nikki, to the Dream to Rise podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And you read so beautifully. I feel like I could listen to your voice all day long.
Oh, thank you. Oh, so I could pass now your class.
Absolutely. A plus. You
Oh
passed for the
my.
year.
Because my children, they would always make fun of my accent because they will
Oh.
say that, Mom, that's not the way to pronounce this word and so on. They make fun of me. So I told them, okay, okay. But I told them, you know what? The message is more important. So I don't care
Exactly.
whatever you say. You were able to grow up here. And I was in the Philippines, so it's so hard for an elderly to really mellow down the tongue and what do you mean to soften the tongue and then
Uh-huh.
be able to get the American accent. I don't know.
But that would be so weird if you talked like the people that I'm around and you just all of a sudden like started to speak and then one random word or sentence was like in a country accent or something like that. I'd be like, huh? Like, no, it's yeah, that's silly. You speak the way that is natural to you, and
Yes.
that's what's beautiful.
Yes, yes. So, we'll go ahead, Nikki. I would just like, the objective of this podcast, wherein I would like to inspire and empower listeners that there is truly light at the end of the tunnel. And I would just like to ask you if you can tell us something about yourself that brought you to where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So after college, things started to come to a head, and I realized that life was going to be a lot harder than what I anticipated. As a millennial, we were very idealistic about the way that we thought life was going to be for us, and I never really questioned anything about what I was taught, what I was learning, what the school said to do. I never questioned any of it because I truly did buy into the notion that education, formalized traditional schooling, was going to be my way to security, my way to success, my way to personal fulfillment. I thought that was going to be it, and I was going to be fine. But once college hit and I graduated, I did not know what to do. I had no prospects. It was cold. It was December when I graduated. And I just remember leaving the facility and feeling hopeless. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I feel like I don't have any skills. I feel like I've spent all this time in school, but I'm not actually capable of doing much of anything. And I thought that I was going to have to work jobs like I worked as a waitress for a number of years. I worked as a hostess. I worked at some retail stores, and I thought that was just going to be it. And I had these, it's not that there's anything wrong with that at all. I would be happy to work any of those jobs. It's just that I had bigger aspirations for my own self. And I didn't know how any of that was going to come to fruition. And I thought that my education was going to just be my ticket to that level of success, but it wasn't. And so after about a year after I graduated from college, I finally woke up and I said, I need to be a teacher. And I've always been really good at teaching. My grandma, she was the one who pointed that out when I was younger, and I said, "No, I don't want to be a teacher. No, no, no." And then I said, "Well, I should be a teacher." So I went back to school, back to the traditional education environment, and I took some classes, nothing formal. I just took a few classes here and there. And I started volunteering and doing observations in all kinds of schools, from primary schools to elementary to middle to high school. And I really like the high school age just because my personality suits that age group. And I remember just feeling at home. I started to feel at home being a teacher. Now, of course, that has come with several bumpy rides, which we can talk about later. But once I really found out who I was and how to align myself career-wise with my own natural abilities, talents, and skills, I really found a purpose that I really never had before. I just never experienced that before, and I'm glad that I did. I'm glad I became a teacher.
So what made you think that I want to become a teacher?
Well, you
What
know,
triggered that?
when you feel like you have no other options and you feel that life is just not it's not giving you any opportunities, sometimes you just have to create your own. You have to really look within yourself, or at least that's what I had to do. I had to look within myself and say, what am I really good at? Like, I'm trying to do all these things that I'm not really good at. And it's not that I couldn't do them. It's not that I wasn't happy doing them. It's just that they didn't give me the sense of personal fulfillment that I wanted, but when I looked inside myself and I said, you know what, I need to go back to my roots. Remember what your grandma told you. Remember what your mom told you. Remember where you feel most at home, most like yourself, most aligned with your spirit and your soul. And when I had that realization, that's when I decided to become a teacher. But I was at a low point. I was at a low point in my life because my at the time I had gotten married and that relationship did not work out, thankfully. And I didn't realize at the time how much damage I was doing to my own self by getting into relationships that were not they were not making me happy, and that I wasn't compatible with these individuals, and I just was spiraling. I was fully spiraling, looking for anything to grasp and hold on to, whether it was a relationship, a job, or anything. I was looking for something to hang on to and give me a sense of purpose in life. And then when I looked inside myself, I said, I need to become a teacher. And I finally remembered. I feel like I had that moment where it's kind of like Lion King, where Simba comes back
Uh-huh.
at the end and Mufasa's talking to him through the sky and he says, "Remember who you are." And it was like kind of like that. And I just decided to go into teaching after that, and I knew it was the right decision.
And when you started teaching, what level did you start teaching? Is it grade school or high
That's
school?
a good question. So before I became, there was a couple of years before when my relationship, my marriage, everything ended. There was a few years between that moment and me actually becoming a teacher. And so in between, like I think it was maybe like 2 years, 2 or 3 years, something like that, I was doing after school programs. So I was working with elementary school students. I didn't enjoy that very much. That's not the age group that I particularly enjoy working with, but I did work with them for a number of years, and it gave me a lot of good experience and a lot of good connections and things. And it also helped me to get my foot in the door as far as teaching goes and learn a lot before I actually became a teacher. And then once I did officially become a teacher, I started working with high school students and never looked back.
Mhm. You enjoy working with the high school students. Why?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. Put me with the high school kids any day. Don't want to go any younger than that.
Because there there was a time when I used to remember the high school students are, isn't it? There's this stage, the puberty stage.
Mm.
So it was so hard to handle and manage high schoolers. I experienced that with my children. And so, especially my daughter. So how are you able to handle, especially multiple students at that age and with different personalities? I don't know. How are you able to manage that?
It's a good question. Well, for one, you're a parent. I'm not. So you're dealing with kids in a totally different way. You have to live with them. You have to see them at their best and see them at their worst. And you just there's a lot going on as a parent that we teachers, we don't really have to deal with that much, or at least I personally don't. But I have a tremendous amount of respect for parents because you guys are the ones who are training these kids, and you have to wear so many different hats. You have to be a parent. You have to not be their friend, of course, because you're not their friend, you're their parent. You can be their guide, their mentor, their support system. And at the same time, like you're trying to balance this act of trying to protect them from
Mhm,
harm, while at the same time trying to let them explore. And that comes with a certain level of risk. And things are going to happen. So as a parent, you're always straddling these two things, and it has to be so difficult. But as a teacher, I really don't have to do any of that. There are moments, of course, where I support students in ways that their parents do not. And I've had many conversations with students who don't have the best parenting or home life situation, and that is really unfortunate. And I always tell them and remind them that things are going to get better. Like they really will. They're definitely going to get better for you, especially if you keep your head on straight, get a goal, have a focus for what you want to do, be definite in your purpose in life, and things are definitely going to be better for you. And they tend to respond to that. So I think that my success in working with high school students just comes from the fact that I don't know. I really don't know. I just they're not as emotionally scattered as the younger kids. The younger kids are all over the place emotionally. And some teachers can handle that very well and they're so nurturing.
mhm,
I'm not nurturing. I'm not that person. I mean I can be, but it's not my MO. And with high school students, I don't have to be nurturing. I can just be myself. Like who I am talking to you right now is
mhm.
exactly who I am in the same way in the classroom with the high school kids and all of that. And I feel like I feel like I can actually talk to them like an adult. I don't have to babyfy them all the time. I don't have to, there's a certain level of independence and autonomy that I can give them, and I feel very comfortable doing that. But I don't feel that way with the middle school kids or the elementary school kids because you don't know what they're going to do. Whereas the high school kids, for me, they're more independent, and I'm an independent person myself, so I feel like those two qualities just go hand in hand.
Oh, yes. But what is the most challenging situation you have experienced dealing with high schoolers?
Ooh, oh my goodness. I was just telling my grandma about this morning. I've been teaching for 12 years, and in year 6, I didn't think I was going to make it as a teacher much longer in year 6 because our school had a lot of fights. I think we were averaging probably like 3 to 5 fights a day.
Mhm.
And on the high end, sometimes there would be 6 or 7 fights just in one day.
Oh.
And it was every day. Every day was like this. And these fights were vicious. I mean, they were full out assaults. Kids were punching each other as hard as they possibly could. Bigger kids were jumping little kids, smaller kids, not little kids as in young kids, but in stature and physical stature. Girls were beating up boys, boys were beating up girls, people were pulling each other's hair out. I mean, it was really violent, and these fights would just pop off at any moment. You didn't know. It was like walking in a field of landmines, and one wrong step, things were going to blow up. You just didn't know. And that's how I felt. And I had this tremendous fear and anxiety every single day going to school. And even though, of course, I would never compare what I went through to what someone has gone through as far as like a really traumatic trauma, something really heavy. I would never compare that to that. But I experienced my own level of PTSD within the school system because of that, and I didn't think I was going to make it much longer. Thankfully, though, we did get some different policies put in place, and the administration, changed some things, made some modifications, and that cut down on the fights. And so since then, it's things have steadily improved over the past 6 years, which I'm very, very thankful of. And this year, year 12, maybe there's been like one fight that I know about the entire school year, but it's certainly not what it was back then. And so I'm really grateful for that. And that for me was one of the hardest things that not it was definitely one of the hardest things that I've had to go through as a teacher because I was afraid. I was afraid for my own life because these fights were spontaneous. They were random. You didn't know if you were going to be next.
But in terms of, yeah, that's scary. That's scary. And I'm glad, see the impact it did to you as well. Imagine. And I'm glad that the school took action to
Yes.
minimize this. But in terms of relationship between the students, you and the students, were there like the students were very rebellious, or do they answer back, or do they show, I don't know, disrespect? I don't know, because that's what I've observed, especially in high schoolers, no?
I totally understand. And not particularly with me. It doesn't happen a ton. It has happened and it does happen, but very rarely do I have to worry about somebody getting an attitude or showing disrespect. And I think that a lot of that has to do with just kind of how I manage things in the
Yeah.
classroom. One, I'm very laid back. So I think it's kind of a rare combination, and that's why my grandma knew that I needed to become a teacher because she just saw these natural and innate qualities that I had personally to be able to navigate situations like that with ease. And she was right. I do, because in the classroom, I have a balance between being laid back, but also being structured. So it's kind of like a mix between the two. And I also have an innate sense of timing. I just know when. I just know when to do something, when to say something, when to give feedback, how much feedback to give, when to discipline a student, when to correct a student, when to praise a student, when not to praise a student, when to look at a student, when not to. I mean, it's very complex, but I just have these, it's just an intuitive, very intuitive field of energy or something, whatever, however you want to describe it, that just comes very naturally to me. And I'm very grateful for that because I know it's a gift from God that helps me to be able to navigate these complex situations with students. So I don't have to face too much disrespect or attitude or anything like that with high school students. Every now and then there will be something that does happen, but it's usually pretty quick and easy to correct. It's not a huge deal. So, and I think that also that has to do with the fact that in the beginning of the year, I always I spend the like the first day or two training. I train the students. I train them how to talk to each other, how to talk to me. This is, this is what's going to happen if I do this. If I do this, you do this. If you do this, I do this. Like
Yeah.
it's just very easy. It's very clear. And also there was one woman who I practiced my Spanish with her. She was amazing. And when she first met me,
Uh,
she goes, Nikki, tienes un carácter muy fuerte, and you have a very strong character.
uh-huh.
And I was like, me? Really?
Uh-huh.
Like I feel like I'm just a normal average person, and I am. And but she says you have a very strong character, a very authoritative type voice when you talk, and people listen when you talk. And the little kids don't listen. I don't have it doesn't work with them. The little kids don't listen. But I would say the youngest, the middle schoolers and the high schoolers, they listen.
Then it's a compliment. Oh, see? You mentioned about you having PTSD. How long uh did you have this one?
Probably about the duration of a year.
A
And then
year.
once I saw that things started to improve the years after, it went away.
So what did you do in terms of overcoming no, helping you overcome the PTSD?
I would talk to my grandma a lot and share my feelings with her, and she is very wise and very smart. So having that support system and just being able to talk to her and tell her about my day and how difficult it was, she would always give me the strength to be able to continue another day. when
Mhm.
I didn't think that I could do it anymore. And if I didn't have her, I'm not sure that I would have made it into year seven. I probably would have quit because I was in not a great space. I would go in and I would do my job and all of that, but it was an anxiety that I had never really felt before. If anyone who is listening to your podcast or who's listening to this podcast has ever had anxiety before where you feel like you're going to jump out of your skin, you feel like you're not even in your own body. It's like a weird displacement of emotions and feelings. And that's what I had all the time. And I didn't think that I was going to make it, but my grandma always assured me that I had good relationships with my students. There was no reason for anything bad to happen to me personally, as long as I just kept my head down and I stayed the course and I continued to teach my kids. I wouldn't have any problems and she would hear me out as well. And I would tell her how I wanted to quit and how I hated my job and I all these things. I would tell her those things. And she would always remind me that I was good at what I did. And she would remind me that the kids responded to me and that they listened to me. So she would help to instill more confidence in me to be able to go in to school the next day, especially during that year. She would instill in me the confidence that I needed to be able to make it through the day. And I don't know if I would have been able to do that without her.
See, I ask this because most of the time, a lot of people will just be stuck in that situation, and they won't do anything because they don't want to take the risk. But I'm glad you're blessed to have your grandma,
Both
who
my
used to
mom and
be
my grandma, yes.
yes, who used to be a teacher. So she's able to guide you of what techniques or what strategies you could use to make it to overcome what you're experiencing. And just like what you mentioned, you would like to quit. So but then quitting is not the best solution, right? And I'm glad you pursued. And now, and it's really good to have this like an accountability partner who would push you to your limits so you may discover and appreciate your potential, your gift, and your talent, your skills. I'm glad, I'm glad. So, when was it again, the turning point wherein you have to, enough is enough, that I have to pursue my what I want in life, my dream, to pursue my purpose? When was that again?
Yeah, it really was two times. The first was in 2010 when I graduated college and I started to kind of wake up to the fact that the economy wasn't going to work for me. The political situation wasn't going to work for me. None of these things were going to work for me and no one was coming to save me.
And
Uh,
you're here already in the US.
Yes, yes, I've always lived here in the United States. I've lived in
Oh.
Virginia my whole life. So I knew that no one was coming to save me. And I had to realize that by going through some hard times and divorce and different things. And I had to realize that. And when I did, I woke up to my purpose and my passion to become a teacher. But then it also happened again, this reawakening, I guess you could say, where I've been teaching for 12 years, and I'll be honest with you, there have been moments that have been great and they have been tremendously exciting and fulfilling, but there's also been moments in teaching where it's boring, it's dull, and it's stale, and it's the same repetitive things over and over and over again. And I've started to feel like I needed a challenge. Teaching was not a challenge. I mean, it was a challenge in some ways, but it wasn't challenge in the personally fulfilling kind of way.
Mhm.
And so in 2020, in March, schools shut down in Virginia and I think across the country.
The COVID.
And I started to have extra time on my hand where I was studying, what great leaders did. And I would study what great athletes had done to achieve their goals and achieve their dreams. And I felt like I wanted, like I said in the beginning, I've always had these big aspirations for myself. And I'm glad that I do because it keeps me always looking forward and never really looking back. And I feel like that's a good thing, at least for me. And so in 2020, when school shut down, I knew I wanted to do something different and I started to write books. So I wrote two books on the education system, the generational, specifically the generational differences in the education system between Gen Zers, millennials, Gen Xers, baby boomers, and I wrote those two books, and that led to so many different opportunities. I was so happy about it. I've had the opportunity to do TEDx talks. I've had the opportunity to do trainings and seminars for teachers on these different things that I've personally learned in my own classroom. And from there, I was able to start my own because I love to write. Writing is something that I enjoy doing. And I've been able to start my own ghostwriting agency to help people write their books. I just finished up with a client, and then I've got three more clients that are working with me for editing services on their books and things. And then after that, I guess I'm just kind of a crazy, ambitious person. I don't know. But I was able to really start something that I really, really love, and that is my tutoring company, Turning the Tide Tutoring, where I've hired some amazing, amazing educators, and I also do the tutoring as well. And we work with students from all over the world, Canada to the United States to Mexico to everywhere, and in Asia, different places. And we work with clients to help them achieve their academic goals and professional goals and personal goals and things like that. So I'm teaching full time, got my ghostwriting agency, and I'm tutoring as well. So I've got so many things on my plate, but I feel that 2020 was the year that I had that second rebirth, that second reawakening.
I agree with you. And look at what happened, no? You took that uncomfortable action to help yourself develop, to develop yourself, uh, took, what's this? Did some, read some self-development books,
Yeah,
which inspired you. And because the others, they would just complain and complain because of the COVID, right? Me, that's when I also discovered my purpose during COVID time. But you were able to do something out of that situation. And look what happened. A lot of opportunities came up.
yeah,
And uh, most of us, a lot of other people, they would just stay within their comfort zone because they don't want to take that risk. Usually, opportunities are actually at the borderline of your comfort zone. So if you don't take that risk or take that uncomfortable action, nothing will happen.
that's
And
right.
you'll get stuck in that situation for years. Others, it takes them years. And I'm happy with what happened to you because you took that an action, that
Thank you.
risk. Yes, I'm so proud of you. And I'm sure your children, I mean your students are very proud of you. You're the model now. Probably that could be part of your program. How could be because these are the subjects that which are not taught in class, right?
Yeah,
Even budgeting finances or expenses, emotional intelligence, those things are not shared in school.
that's right.
So here, like for example, what you're doing, sharing your story with them, and if for those who are listening, no matter what you do, it really depends on, or no matter what problems you had gone through, if you are really decided on what you want in life, the purpose, then no one will put you down, or even the situation or challenges that you would encounter going through that destination, I mean, traveling towards your destination will not hinder you from moving forward.
That's right.
I love you. I love it. I love
Is that
it.
when you started your podcast? Was 2020 the year you started Dream to Rise?
I I started my Dream to Rise LLC 2020.
There we go.
Just I just retired from the World Bank, and I was a program an analyst, HR analyst when I retired, and I was just 58 years old. And even my director was telling me, "Why are you retiring early?" Because I don't want to retire wherein I'm bedridden, wherein
Yeah,
I cannot walk, I cannot do anything because as we get older, we experience a lot of body pains, no?
yeah,
I still want to be active and still do what we can do to help others. And it was during that time when I've experienced also in my life about my relationship with my husband, an abusive relationship. It really pushed me to help those who are victims also of domestic abuse, that to
Wow.
help give them that opportunity to voice out, express themselves, because I was in that situation. So see, the what we have gone through actually leads us to the purpose, no? The
Yeah.
purpose, our purpose. So you've mentioned about your plans already, what you're doing. So what is your next goal for the next 12 months?
The goal for the next 12 months is definitely to grow my tutoring company and to service as many students as possible to make sure that they actually get the highest quality education that they can. I read an experience on Reddit just yesterday where a woman she's in a relationship. I don't know if she still is. I hope she isn't, but she was in a relationship with an interesting man. And she had a little girl that was like, I don't know, 6 years old, 7 years old, something like that, very young. And the girl was learning some, math items, and the boyfriend was tutoring her at home, and the little girl just wasn't getting it as fast as he would have liked her to get it. And he tried to explain things to her, she wasn't getting it, whatever, and he grew increasingly impatient,
Oh.
and to the point where his impatience became explosive. He started yelling at her and he slammed the door. And this is like a grown man yelling at a little girl. I mean, it just
Mhm.
so I read that experience and I commented on it, and I probably sometimes I probably shouldn't comment on as many things as I do comment on, but I did comment on this, and I didn't tell her what to do or anything like that. I said, but this is an alarming situation to say the least. And I said, as a teacher and as a tutor myself, I work with kids one on one and in the classroom. I said, I just don't understand the level of impatience that some adults, not all adults, but some adults have with kids. Kids are just little humans that need good guidance.
Mhm.
That's
Yes.
it. Like, why are you acting like this? It makes no
Yeah.
sense. But then sometimes I have to remind myself that I am a teacher, I am a tutor, this is my purpose. So
Mhm.
I am going to naturally have an ability, just like millions of other teachers and tutors out there. We are going to have social workers, guidance counselors, things like that. We are going to have a natural ability and a natural patience with kids that maybe some people just don't have. And I understand that. I said, but for me personally, if I were her, I would never ever put my daughter in that situation ever again to be screamed at by some random man. Like, no, that's crazy.
Yes. Yes.
So, I want to be there for these families, and I want to be there and help be a solution to the challenges that they have. And if, like, for example, at my tutoring company, we offer different packages, different courses. We have so many different, just a robust list of subject matters that the tutors are trained in, they're certified in, and we can help pretty much anyone who's a kid, who's kindergarten all the way up to college to an adult learner. We can help all kinds of people do different things and achieve their goals in different subjects, but we also want to make sure that it's accessible. So we do flexible pricing, for military members and people who may have some challenges financially. We're going to make sure that we can work with you, those kinds of things, and put together a plan for you. So I really want to be there for these kids, and so that they have something to look forward to, and they have actual good guidance in terms of schooling and their education, because kids who receive tutoring outperform kids who do not receive tutoring. Like, it's like not even a comparison. If you look at SAT prep or PSATs or test scores, kids who receive tutoring for these tests, their scores are astronomically high in comparison to the kids who do not receive this level of tutoring in general. So, to be a support system for these parents and for these kids, and that's what I ultimately want to do in the next 12 months is to really grow that out for them. But then it's not just about academics either. You as a parent, we were talking about this before, you have to deal with the emotions. You've got kids that have a lot of different things going on, and I do provide a lot of life coaching to kids as well. And I just had a session with a kid, I think a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that, where we talked about all kinds of things. We talked about vaping, pornography, peer pressure, all different kinds of things. And I texted the mom and I said, "Hey, this is what we discussed today in our session." And she was like, "Wow." She goes, "These things I never talk to my children about because,
Yes.
I either just don't have time to, or I'm kind of nervous to talk to them about these things because they're in high school, these kids are." And I was really glad to be able to provide not just academic services, but also emotional services and support to these kids who may not always get it from, for whatever reason.
Very good. Very good. You mentioned about your main goal is to grow your tutoring company. What do you think would be the major roadblock for you to achieve this goal?
I don't think that there are too many roadblocks that I wouldn't be able to handle because as far as the finances, we're willing to work with any family, just we'll figure it out. So that's definitely not a roadblock. I'm also in the process of applying for grants. That might be something that could turn into an obstacle if I didn't get the grant. And what I want to use the grants for is to connect with schools. So one of the biggest obstacles would be getting into the school systems, even though I already am a teacher, I already am in a school system, but I can't combine my business with what I do at the school where I work because so I
Okay.
can't
Conflict
do
of
that.
interest. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can't do that piece where I combine what I do as a teacher and a tutor. I can't do that. So that's definitely a roadblock for sure. And that's why I need the grants because if I can get say a $10,000 or $50,000 grant for tutoring services, I can go to another school, not the one where I work, obviously, but I can go to another school and say, "Hey, we offer these services and we've got the money to be able to pay for these tutors and things, and we want to make sure that your students have the support." And we'll see what they say. But getting into the school systems is that sometimes it can be harder than what people think because administrators are very busy. And the other thing is that schools often are working with very tight budgets. I was just at a school board meeting, not for the school where I work, but for another school in the local area because I also write articles for the local newspaper and I was covering a school board event at a local school and they were talking about how their budget is so tight that they're going to have to start laying off people and
Yeah.
cutting positions and things like that. And that's no good for the kids.
Yeah.
That's no good. So, okay, well, what can I do? Well, I have my own business. I can tutor, I can support. I've got a great team of staff members and teachers and tutors and educators that can really help kids, online, do online learning and things like that. But I need that grant. I need that grant because the school's already financially spent. And if I can get that grant and go to that school system and say, "Hey, here's the money, here's what we can do, let's figure something out," then that will definitely help. So that could turn into a potential obstacle, but the way I look at it is that everything works out in its due time. And I really do trust God completely to allow these things to unfold organically and naturally and at their due time. And if they happen, that's great. If they don't happen, that's okay too. I just want to work with as many people as possible. And I tell God that every day. And He blesses my efforts. And I'm really thankful for anything and everything that I get from it.
Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. So before we end, what would be your simple advice to our listeners?
Oh, single piece of advice for listeners. So there's so many things that I want to say. One, I would say that if you're spinning wheels and you have this idea or you have this dream, ambition that you want to accomplish or do, what you have done up until this point has been good enough to get you to where you are, but it's not going to be good enough to get you where you need to be next. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're spinning wheels and you feel like you're not making any progress, you're going to have to change things up,
Mm-hmm.
probably pretty significantly. And I know that I had to change. Me personally, I had to one of the biggest changes that I have made, and it's not easy. I have to stay disciplined about this. But one of the biggest changes that I have made is realizing that my genius, I believe everybody is a genius in their own way. And I've had to realize that my genius is in being of service to others. And when I am of service to others, that is when I'm my best self. And
Yes.
that all connects back to teaching and all these different wonderful things. But not everybody is like that. Not everybody has that natural, intuitive, service-based mindset to get things done and to be very grounded. Some people are big idea people. Sometimes you have all the biggest ideas, you're so creative. I admire people like that. But people who have these big ideas, you need to connect with people like me. And people who don't have the big ideas like me need to connect with people like you. And not only that, but there are people who are geniuses at personal relationships and human psychology. They're just great with people. And that those people are wonderful, but they're not always great at analytics. They're not always great at the numbers. They're not always great at analyzing the data, and they want to just go out there and talk to people. And they do, but they don't necessarily follow through on all these other things. So their business never really grows or expands because they're stuck doing the same thing, and that's connecting to people, but they don't take care of the other foundational elements that need to be handled. And then you've got people that are highly, highly, highly analytical, highly just very deep thinkers, incredibly smart people. And those people are wonderful because they can look at spreadsheets, they can look at huge aggregates of data and tell you the whole big story behind it. That's definitely not me. But those people also struggle too. They sometimes struggle with the big ideas. They definitely, in most cases, struggle with getting along with people and having strong personal relationships and things like that. So my biggest piece of advice would be to figure out where your genius is and which one of those really makes you the happiest. And of course, do more of that. So for me, it's serving others more. That's what makes me happy. Instead of trying to be the big idea person and to be the analytical person and to be all these things that I'm just not. I do what's right for me. And for the other parts of the equation, I connect to people who can help me increase my IQ in those other
Exactly.
areas. And if you do that, I think that that could be the needed change that you need to really move forward in your business and in your
I
journey.
I absolutely agree with you. And sometimes other people they would feel bad because oh I'm not that analytical. Oh, but each one of us has a gift
Yeah,
and use that gift, develop that gift. Now, if you have some weaknesses, then try to study, improve. How can you improve? And there are times, like for example, if you have a company or an organization, you don't have to do everything. Why not delegate it to the people who are who are very good, who excel in those qualities,
that's
right?
right. Find the people who are really good at the things that you are
Uh-huh.
not and connect with them. And if it's
Yes.
like finances, for example, I connect with my mom. My mom is excellent at helping me understand what's going on with my money and where it's coming in and where it's going out. And she helps me to kind of just stay in check because I can spend money like a crazy person. And like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and just not even realize it. And all of a sudden my bank account is at like zero. And and I'm like, where did all my money go? So I'm just not great at that. But I connect with her and I'm like, Mom, you know, can you help me? Here's my bank statements. What do I need to do? And she kind of helps me to see the light and what I need to do. So connect, yes, definitely connect with those people who are good at those things. And so I'll give you another example. Today is Wednesday. Wednesday is my favorite day of the week because it's my anchor day. And my anchor day is when I try to do things that are natural to me. So like podcasting and talking to you, this all feels very organic, very natural, very synergistic, all those kinds of things. So I try to do all of the most natural things that come most natural and organic to me on Wednesday because it's my anchor day, it's the middle of the week.
Mm.
And then all the other days maybe like on a Thursday or a Monday or whatever, I'll spend doing the money, the analytics and the other
See,
stuff and just kind of keeping it grounded so that
there's
I
a
know,
schedule for you.
yeah.
That's good. That's good. And by the way, how will they be able to get in touch with you? Would you
Oh,
like to share
yes.
your website or?
Yeah. That would be important for us, for our tutors to be able to help kids and all those things. It'd be
Mhm.
important to know that. So yes, the website is www.turningthetidetutoring.com. And you can email me at turningthetidetutoringllc@gmail.com. Or if you visit the website, my number is posted on there. You can call me as well.
Wow. Wonderful. See, everything is here. And if you need information or if you need help in terms of handling your children and make them really be successful with their academics, here we have Nikki. Okay, thank you so much, Nikki, for your time and for being here with us. And I wish you all the best in terms of your goals for this
You
year.
too. You
Okay.
too.
Thank you. Have a blessed day. And for our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Till next episode. Bye.